it was a joke addressing the Gen Zs, and someone was asking a group of them, what do you guys want? We don't know. When do you want it? Now.
Did you listen to the Hot Breakfast this morning? Here's what you missed.
Speaking of tech, we've been talking about The Room for the last few days, right? The Room that has the ready-made tech talent for you, the workforce. Employing, let's face it, has changed. You can't go through HR and all that rigmarole. The tech prepares the next generation of tech talent, and they are vetted, taken through boot camp, and gone through the works, and they've been pretty successful. For quite a few thousand have managed to get into the work front. And joining us live in the studio today, Peter Muriithi. He's the general manager of The Room. Joins us live to talk more about it. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Asante sana. The Room. Tell us about it.
The Room. So The Room is part of the Africa Leadership Group. So most people would know the Africa Leadership Academy, which was started by Fred Sonika in South Africa 17 years ago, and then later on we started the Africa Leadership University. And as the name suggests, like the vision at the beginning was really to create the next generation of African leaders, entrepreneurial and ethical African leaders, right? So with time, employers started coming to Fred and saying, hey, you've been saying you're developing this top talent in Africa, can we have access to this talent? We are looking for talent, we're finding it difficult to find this talent. And that was really the genesis for The Room. So 2 years ago, we also started ALX, which was meant to accelerate the work that ALU was doing. So ALU has campuses in both Mauritius and Rwanda, but obviously, as you can imagine, only a few people had access to these institutions. Some people would get scholarships, some people would pay to actually go to these campuses, but then the reach was really limited. If the objective was to transform Africa, we needed to think of a way of actually accelerating this education. So that's where ALX was born. ALX is an online program, very similar to what ALU is doing, but it's scalable. It's scalable because all you need is access to the internet, all you need is a laptop, and you can go through those courses, right? So with ALX, we've really been able to scale what you're doing at the Africa Leadership Group. And when you think about The Room, sometimes I visualize it as a physical room, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically this space that you get into and you can interact with the alumni who've come out of ALX, who've come out of ALU, and you can actually interact with them and you can hire them, you can get them to work for you. So that's really what The Room is.
Explain to us the simplest of terms. Now let's assume I'm in charge of hiring because a lot of IT bosses, some of them don't even know what needs to be done down here. So how easy has it become for people to get these tech skills?
Yeah. So what happens in the tech field is that it's a very liberal space where people can actually get skilled and trained by simply going to YouTube, for instance. So I don't know if you've had conversations with people who've gone to university. I've had quite a number, and they will tell you some people go to university and spend 4 years there in a public university, and then they actually get employed as a developer or a coder, and then the employer realizes that they can't code, right? Yeah. So we are really facing that big problem in the market where people actually go to university and they spend time there, but they don't come with the necessary skills that they need to thrive in the workplace. So what happens with the ALX courses is that they're very, very practical. So 30% might be theoretical, but then 70% is actually doing. And you work on different projects. Every week or every 2 weeks, you have to submit something. So in a certain sense, it's very practical. And that's really what's needed in the tech field. When an employer gets someone off the market, so assume that you started your business today. You're not a techie, or you did C++ 20 years ago, right? You need somebody to develop your website. You need somebody to develop an application or an API connecting your business to, say, M-Pesa or whatever it is. In your mind, you don't really know what the technical specifications for that product is. All you know is the business case, right? I need this product to be able to do X, Y, and Z. So when you're hiring for a tech person, you really need to get somebody who understands what needs to be done. They understand both the business side of it, but then they understand the technical aspect of it, and they're able to build the product from end to end with minimal supervision. And that's really what, the courses that we offer at ALX are really aimed at giving them those practical skills so that by the time they get into the workplace, they're ready to go.
And how is the talent pool out there?
In the market. So for tech specifically, there's a very small pool, or rather there's a very, very big demand for tech talent, and it's a global thing, right? So if you look at the numbers, there's a total of 26.5 million software engineers or techies globally in the world, right? 5.5 million of them are based in India. around 4.5 million of them are based in the US. The entire of Africa only has 700,000. That's really tiny.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, in the West have aging populations.
Yeah.
The average age in Africa is 19 years. So the global eyes have actually turned to Africa because this is really the next source of talent, right? And we have seen, global multinationals coming to set up the talent centers here, the likes of Google and the likes of Microsoft. So in a certain sense, in the local market, there's already a shortage of tech talent, but this has become a global phenomenon, and it's even more acute, and it's going to become even more so into the future. So what you're seeing in the marketplace is, in as much as the tech talent coming from the universities is not adequately prepared for the workplace, there's also a growing demand for software developers. So really that's the need that ALX is coming to solve. We need to be able to produce software engineers at scale. Right, if you want to become the next India, where India has a tech space where 90% of the tech talent there works for multinationals. It's an export business for them, and we really feel like in Africa we have a real opportunity to be that, and there's a real opportunity to transform the continent through that. So that's really the space that ALX is getting into. And obviously, if we produce enough software engineers, our local businesses also have the talent that they need for their businesses, which is critical. Right now, employers are really struggling with multiple things. They're struggling, one, to find that top talent. Two, once they find it, it's really hard to retain it. Not on average really, but I've had several conversations with employers, and they tell you to hire somebody, train them maybe for a month or two, and then in the fourth month they're poached by somebody else. Just when they're beginning to learn and to offer value, they leave, right? And then lastly, the salaries for tech talent have really gone up because of the demand, right? So even local businesses are suffering from that acute shortage. So in a certain sense, we are building this tech talent not only for export, but for the local businesses, because it's really critical for our businesses here. We have a couple of other tech courses, which are specializations from the software engineering one. So just to mention a few, we have the cloud engineer course, there's a cloud DevOps course as well, and there's data science, but those ones already require you to have a certain bare minimum in the tech space for you to be able to do them. But really the core and the foundation is the software engineering program. And also just to mention, within the Africa Leadership Group ecosystem, it's one of the things that we really prime and we give importance to, because in our minds, what success looks like is creating the next generation of African leaders. It's really about changing mindsets, right? So we were joking about people changing jobs every 4 months here, right? And people do that for multiple reasons. Maybe they're looking for the next big gig, the next big salary, or whatever it is, right? But then you see, and employers are really suffering with that, right? And we've seen, especially in the new generation, Gen Zs, there's a certain level of impatience. They want success and they want it quickly. And sometimes it requires time to get there. Jeff, out of his experience, can be able to tell you, in his journalism career, he actually had to put in time, he had to put effort for him to get to where he is and for him to be able to create value. So that's one of the mindsets we are really trying to imbue in these young people. It's not just about the technical skills, but we try to give them that leadership core, and we try to get them to give back to community, participate in community outreach program, so that they have that vision. At the end of the day, we also need to transform the continent, and the skills that you're getting, what we're giving you through ALX, you have to give back, and we have to build the continent together.
Which other fields are changing like this?
Yeah, so one of the other fields that we've invested in is a financial space. So we have a program which is a financial analyst program, and it's really meant to upskill people who are already, either they've studied economics or they've studied BCom, specialized in finance, or they're accountants, and it's meant to give them that extra edge where they're able to tell their manager, what's going to happen in the future. Your traditional accountant would tell you what happened in the past.
Yes.
This is how much money you made in the past, this is how much losses you made in the past. But in a certain sense, they don't help the business owner make decisions as to the future. So the financial analyst course that we're offering with ALX is really meant to help them to be able to build out scenarios, right? So if you take decision A, this is probably what's going to happen. If you take decision B, this is probably what's going to happen. So it's an addition to that. But as I mentioned before, we are really focused on tech because that's really where we see the biggest gap, and that's where we see the biggest opportunity. And this is global. You remember that because of COVID-19 and now people are working remotely, people like minds have opened up. It's one of those things that has really made the labor marketplace global. So this is not just a Kenyan market thing. It's a global market and the opportunities out there are massive. So as the room, we've really decided to focus on tech because that's where we see the biggest opportunity.
There was a phrase someone was using or keeps using, they're saying Africa is going to be the next Silicon Savannah. Can you see this happening? Can you see this happening?
This is definitely going to happen. And in a certain sense, we have a window of opportunity to make it happen. There's this massive opportunity for developing tech talent right now. And it's one of those things that if we really get right, Kenya could be the next India, right? India has really developed its economy off the backbone of its tech industry. And it's estimated, for every tech person hired in Bangalore, for example, in India, who's working in the export business, he has created 5 other jobs. Because if you think about it, a software developer eventually will end up spending money on a car, for example. He will build a house, So in a certain sense, for every software developer, this is how it's estimated. For every software developer hired in India working in the export market, there are 5 other extra jobs created around him. So the transformative potential for us becoming the next India is really huge on the economy.
What do you see in the next 5, 10, 20 years? You don't even have to be something that's working now, but a vision you have.
So for me, I think my vision is really to create the right environment for these opportunities to come up, right? Because it's not that we don't have ideas here in Kenya. We have a lot of ideas, but the
Give me one.
What you're doing with the room, for example, right? We are offering top tech talent, and we're letting employers know that, look, if you want to hire top tech talent, suffer no more, come to the room. This is vetted talent, and you're really trying to scale that. So this is one of those ideas that is truly transformative, and for me, that's top of mind right now. But within our ecosystem as well, one of the things that we want to do, because our mandate, we've been funded by the MasterCard Foundation, and our mandate really is we want to create 2 million jobs by the year 2030. And fundamental to this is actually encouraging entrepreneurship, right? So we have an entrepreneurship course, what you used to call the Young Entrepreneur Program. And as an offshoot of that, we're going to be starting a venture studio where we can incubate some of this business and give funding to some of this business, just because we realize that entrepreneurs have a multiplier effect, right? So if I train one software engineer and then they get a job, or I give them a job, that's one job I have created. But then if I train a tech entrepreneur and then in 2 years, 3 years, they've hired 10 people, the return on investment in terms of creating jobs is much higher. But this is an ecosystem thing, right? It's a factor of making sure that they have the right training, the right education. It's making sure that we are connecting them to funding. They have the right incubation, they have the right mentorship from entrepreneurs who've gone before them. So right now it's just the beginning of that, but you're also very keen in participating in this ecosystem. And obviously, as a room, we're providing talent, right? That's really a very direct way that you're helping entrepreneurs scale and do their business.
Peter, now you get a chance to really sell yourself. There's young man, young woman out there who's listening to you for the very first time. They've never heard of ALX, never heard of Leadership Academy. Go on.
You tell us, including, how to get there, how much it costs for various courses.
So the value that you're creating, because you're trying to create a two-sided marketplace, we're actually creating value for not only the student, but for the employers as well. So maybe I can speak to both sides. So for the student side, it's really, because we've gotten this funding from the MasterCard Foundation, the fees for our programs have been waived. The only thing that you need is access to a computer and the internet, and some level of grit, because some of these courses, they're not easy. You need to be able to push yourself through, and you're going to be able to do them. So in a certain sense, if you're a student out there or you're in campus, you want to get into the tech space, please visit alxafrica.com. You'll get a list of all the programs that you have with a very detailed description, and you can apply there, right? On the other hand, for the employers, the value that you're really offering is that the talent that gets into our talent pool has already been vetted. So what happens is that once somebody has finished their ALX course, we'll invite them to join what you're calling the Room Fellowship, which is our talent pool. And by joining the Room Fellowship, what they're basically telling us is, I'm available for the opportunities that are out there. But then you see, it is estimated that 80% of people exaggerate on their CVs, right?
We were talking about that yesterday. Even you lie. You
look at your CV and like, what do you mean?
So in a certain sense, even when you look at somebody's CV, it doesn't mean that it's all false, but it's very hard for you to get a sense of what this person can actually do. So what most employers do is that, they will put an advert on LinkedIn saying we're looking for a software engineer, web developer, whatever it is. They'll get maybe 500 CVs. They'll spend time sifting through those CVs. They'll make a short list, and then they start interviewing those people. This process could typically take between 3 to 4 months. So what you're telling me with the room is, the talent that you have in our talent pool has already been vetted. These are people who we know. They're people who we've spent time with. We know what projects they've done. We know what internships they've done. We have actually placed them, some of them, in specific jobs, and what they did. We got feedback from employers. So this is vetted talent, right? So instead of going to the market, spending 4 months, 5 months looking for talent which you're not really sure about, you come to the room. We can already give you a short list of talent that's already been vetted. We are really shortening the time for you to fill for those roles. So the value that you're really offering to entrepreneurs and to business people is letting you know, look, you can actually assemble your tech team in 3 weeks. And because we have this abundant pipeline of talent, if someone were to leave, it will take another week or 2 to replace that person. So in a certain sense, you don't waste your time, looking for this talent. You don't have to sift through thousands of CVs. You can really focus on your core business, which is developing the business, as opposed to developing the tech team.
And address young people out there who are always complaining, like you were saying before, we call them the microwave generation. They want things turned around in 30 seconds, and yet they're not willing to put the work in it. And this is not easy. This, computer, techs are not easy. It takes time. What do you tell them?
That's very interesting. I saw a meme the other day on Twitter. Someone was saying, it was a joke addressing the Gen Zs, and someone was asking a group of them, what do you guys want? We don't know. When do you want it? Now. The only thing they're sure is that they want it now, whatever it is that they want.
Whatever it is.
Right. And what I'd really tell young people is that, success is not, it can't be instantaneous, and we really have to understand that it takes time to build. Right. The whole of China was not built in 2 days. Things that last are not built in 2 days. And that patience is really, really important. As long as you know that you're moving in the right direction, it's good for you to put the patience, it's good for you to put the hard work, and eventually you'll get there.
That's deep. That's great advice. Great advice. Someone's asking on Twitter if you would please, don't mind if you just repeat the process of joining the campus. That's what Masa is asking.
So if you want to join one of our courses at ALX, go to alxafrica.com. alxafrica.com. You'll find a list of the programs which are there, plus a very detailed description of what it entails, what is needed from you. And then once you find something that you like, click subscribe or enroll, and we'll start the process there. The process typically takes an hour and a half. So be patient. It's one of those things. We already started testing your patience from that point. But it's all there. It's on the website. You can apply for that. And once you get through, you get admitted, you'll get an email letting you know you've been enrolled into this course. It's going to start on X date, etc., etc. Then you can plan yourself accordingly. Most of these courses actually do need time, right? So it's one of those things you just don't register and that's it. You have to know, I'm going to spend between this date to this date doing this course. Therefore, I need to dedicate X number of time. I need to have a laptop. I need to have steady access to internet. So you really have to prepare for that, both materially and psychologically.